See if I got any. Natasia? Here. William? Okay, he's over there. Josh is here. Logan? Logan? Gavin? Yes. Jesus. And Raleigh. Okay. Now, as I said last week, today's going to kind of be like a movie day. I'm going to show you a little bit of nostalgia from the 1980s, just to give you a basic idea of what you will be writing for your essay. Wednesday, I'm going to give you a, hold on. Actually, today I can open it today. Optional rubric and a basic template of what an essay looks like, so you guys will have an example. Now, some of you might not know what you want to write about, and that's okay, okay? So I'm gonna show you a presentation of the Transformers, how it started in the 80s, how it became a pop culture phenomenon, how it affected a lot of people my age today. There's a lot of grown men my age walking around with this trauma, this nostalgic trauma from this beloved character who was basically unalived so many years ago. And I'm gonna show you the development of this cartoon series, and maybe in your own nostalgia you can find something that you remember fondly, something that shaped who you are today. Now, you've only been on the planet for maybe about 2 decades, but you still have something you can write about, you still have something you can share, you still have something you could be nostalgic about. I've been alive a little bit longer than you guys, but the bottom line is I can still learn something from you, and that's what I hope to do. Now, Wednesday, I'm gonna show you some essay examples, just so you know what they look like, how you know what the instructor feedback looks like. Maybe you can get some ideas from there. But today we're gonna cover commercial nostalgia, so I'm just gonna open that really quick. And we're going to get started right now, so let me make sure the sound works. Okay. Some parts might be a little loud. Anybody have sensory perception issues? Anybody don't like flashing lights and stuff like that? All right, because some of the videos I'm going to show you, some snippets I'm going to show you, do have flashing lights. So let's begin. Could someone hit the lights and close the door? Because some of the sound on this. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about nostalgia. This is a perfect example of what we call a time capsule. If any of you ever been in school and you were in a history class, this is what we did in school. We had a time capsule. We took all our little items and we put them into like a plastic bin and we buried it, and we put a little flag on the ground, little neon flag, and it said do not open until the year 2024 or something, and nobody ever comes back to get it. Only people generations later, they dig it up later on because everybody forgets about it. Well, people forget. But one of the things about the Transformers that's made it long lasting is that there's a connective tissue to this franchise that exists even today. Has anybody ever seen the Transformers movies by Michael Bay from 2007? Really? What do you guys think about those movies? Pretty good? Okay, well, I'm going to show you how it all started, and I'm going to show you how one character turned the entire 80s pop culture world upside down. And guys, this is a crazy, wild ride. So let's just get ready for it. Before I start, I want to fill you in on a few things. See, back in the 1980s, it's not much different than it was today. Back then, we had Ronald Reagan. He's a lot like Donald Trump. He was an actor in the 1950s. And he was very good at talking to people. And another thing he was very good at was invoking, or getting people to listen to him, okay? Which is what I try to do every day with my students, okay? Now, there's a thing called Reaganomics, and what that basically meant was there was an unregulated market in the 1980s, which is the reason why we have Walmart and Jeffrey Bezos and Elon Musk. That's the reason why we have those today, because they turned the bull loose. That was the term that they used, okay? And Reagan pretty much allowed these markets to be opened up. Many of these markets were targeted towards kids, and they were aggressive campaigns to sell cereal, sell toys, and whatever else it is that they wanted to sell, okay? And it was the parents who ended up hashing out the money for these things. So Ronald Reagan pretty much played a part in this. He was the president at the time. There was a company called Hasbro, and what they were doing was there's really no market in the United States around this time, around the early 80s. Anime was big in Japan. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to bring something overseas here. And when they bring imports here, they have to purchase the rights to them, okay? So they were looking to start a toy show around, a cartoon show around a toy line. And these are the ones that they chose. It's called Diaclone and Microchange. Now this is big for young boys back in the 80s, just like you guys have your electronics. Well, back in the 80s, we didn't have iPads, we didn't have cell phones. If you had a cell phone, it was like, it looked like a brick and had an antenna coming out of it. It had like a suitcase, and the circuit board was at the bottom, and you couldn't get water on it or leave it in the car, get moisture, or it would get damaged, okay? Those were our cell phones back in the day. They were huge. Today, you got a camera in your phone, you got a computer in your phone, you got your calendar, everything is in the palm of your hand. Back in the 80s, you had to carry a camera around, you had to go to the 1 hour photo and get it developed, just to give you an idea of what was going on. So they purchased these two properties, and they changed it to the Transformers when it came to the United States. It premiered on September 17th, 1984. I think I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old when this cartoon came out. And it was a 3-part introduction that explained the whole universe. Matter of fact, let me just show you. Now back in the 80s, cartoons weren't like Family Guy. They were very family oriented and they were very friendly and kids could understand them. Cartoons in Japan and overseas and Korea, they were a little different because they were adult oriented. If anybody's ever heard of Lupin the Third? Anybody ever heard of One Piece? One Piece? Any kind of anime, it's more adult oriented, but when it comes to the United States, they got to tone the violence down and they have to tone down the adult themes. So when the Transformers came over here, it was very kid friendly. Every theme song, like, it was like, oh, these guys are the Millers and the dad is mean and the right. The theme song told you what the cartoon was about. Let me give you an example. '80s.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots raise their power to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers.
Now, this is kind of campy, it's kind of hokey, okay? But people actually went into the studio, they stood before a microphone and actually did the dialogue and they sung the theme song. They literally sung it. They didn't have computers and everything back then. They didn't have Pro Tools. None of that digital stuff, AI didn't exist. You went into a studio and you did everything manually. When kids saw this, they went crazy. They were like, wow, what are those? One of the robots turned into a gun and the other guy they were cars, and we were like, what is going on here? We were psyched about this. We were pumped. So, hopefully this doesn't repeat again. Oh, here we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you one of the commercials really quick. These commercials are very generic. It's kind of like the same as the theme song. 1980s. Now, mind you, this is 1984, okay? 1984. Technology wasn't pretty much at its peak like it was today. But the bottom line was this: kids went crazy over this stuff. They didn't understand what was going on. They didn't know all the characters right away. But all they knew is that, hey, these toys are really cool. Hey, Mom, can I have a toy? Can I have a Transformer? I don't know what it is. The show's only been on for like a month. And it came out during school time, too. So this is where things start to really take off for this franchise. Transformers were like a puzzle. And only kids know how to use them. Of course, we have here Optimus Prime. I know because I had an Optimus Prime toy when I was little. It was the first Transformer that I ever had. Kids went crazy over these. They were like puzzles. Like you can come to your dad or your mom and say, here, look at this truck. And they're like, oh, that's a nice red truck. What else does it do? Actually, it's not a truck. It's a robot. Oh, wow, that's great. Yeah, get out of my face. I'm busy. You know, because parents in the 80s just didn't have time to deal with their kids, okay? So what they did was, to keep us occupied, they bought us these toys. There's Megatron. A big controversy was made over this toy because he was a gun, okay? And as you saw in the cartoon, he is a gun too. Megatron caused a lot of controversy because he was so mean. Because in some cartoons, villains actually aren't really evil to the point where they'll unalive or murder someone. Well, as we're going to find out later on, Megatron actually does that. And it's created a lot of controversy. Optimus Prime was the benevolent leader. He was a red truck, and he had this very strong voice. I am Optimus Prime, and we're going to defeat the Decepticons. You know, he had this very stern voice, and we'll get to that in a second. This is the toy line from 1984. Kids were collecting these. I remember when kids would come to school. We would come to school with these, and we would compare them and everything. This is what was going on in 1984. See, back in the early 2000s, it was Digimon, it was Pokemon, it was Nintendo. I don't know which Nintendo console was out. I think it was Game Boy Color or something like that back in the early 2000s. And in the mid 2000s, they had PS1, PS2. Back then, we had Transformers. The only computer games we had was probably Atari or something, maybe the regular Nintendo. Bottom line is, this is nostalgia. Now let's get to the Autobots, because these are the characters that everybody connected to, and I'm going to kind of connect this to the end about why this was such a big issue. As I told you, Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots, the father figure, you know, had a very, very stern voice. And Ironhide, he was kind of like a Midwestern tough guy. Come on, Optimus, I want to fight some Decepticons. He sounded like he drove a Dodge Ram and wore like a baseball cap and went cow tipping at night and did inappropriate things with a sheep. I don't know. He just had this weird accent. And the irony of this is the same voice actor voices these two characters. When you hear their voices, you can tell they're voiced by the same actor, Peter Cullen. Okay? And kids were attached to these characters. Now you have Prowl. He was head of security, a very beloved toy that a lot of kids like. When do we start the search mission, Optimus? We're ready to go. You know, he was kind of like a security guy, like a police officer. And then we have, Ratchet, he's the gruff medic, and we don't have enough Autobots to fight those Decepticons. I don't like. And he's always in a bad mood because he has to fix Ironhide, because Ironhide's always jumping in the way of gunfire. Ironhide was like a big dumb, he's like gunfire. You know, Megatron was always taking shots at Ironhide because Ironhide was the big dummy. He liked to jump in the way of shots and everything. So he was another popular toy. And of course, we have Wheeljack. He was the crazy scientist. I'm going to test this new invention today. It's going to blow up the whole base, you know. So Wheeljack was another character that kids loved. And then, of course, Grimlock. He was a subset called a Dinobot. They built the Dinobots on Earth, but they weren't very smart. But he was me, Grimlock, no help no one. The whole Earth is blow up. Make no difference to me, Grimlock. And then Wheeljack would say, well, the Earth blows up and you're still on it? And Grimlock was like, me not think of that.